Hey, our watch, Jessica Tapia here. Today we have in my friend Deanna. She just reached out to me on Instagram and was sharing some stories that I was like, okay, please come in studio and share this with all of our viewers. She's lived in the Valley for several years and has lots of friends here, knows a lot of teachers in the area. So she's going to share with us today some stories, some things that have been going on in a school district that should absolutely not be happening and that parents should be aware of. So we're going to make you aware of that today. Deanna, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So I think the first thing you reached out and shared with me was about a teacher, actually at Dorothy McElhaney, which has kind of been a topic of our podcast lately with the locker room situation happening there, a girl entering the boys' locker room. But you shared with me about a teacher and something a teacher said to the class.
To
so
my
tell me,
knowledge,
tell me about that one.
I believe there's a math teacher there, and I'm sorry, the name escapes me, but I'd asked a friend who is also a teacher in the Valley about that. I said, I heard there's a trans teacher there. That's interesting. Can you tell me about that? And they said, oh, yes. It's Mr. So-and-so, I think he teaches math. He just told the kids one day, I'm going to go away for the weekend. You're going to, you call me Mr. So-and-so now, but when I come back, you're going to call me Ms. You're going to address me with a Miss now, from now on. And I thought to myself, is that the biggest distraction ever? How are kids able to learn with that? There's so many questions. Yeah. And I don't think that's what our kids go to school for. Our kids need to be learning the subject that teacher is teaching. She's entitled, I don't want to misgender somebody, but they're entitled to work and have a job, and I understand that. Yeah. It's just such a huge distraction from learning. And test scores are low enough in California as it is. It just that kind of thing worries me.
Yeah, and when their job is involving young, moldable minds.
Absolutely.
And like you said, now these children have the distraction of, hold on, let me try to keep up. My teacher was a male and now is a female, and I'm sure these kids are probably slipping up a lot on what to call the individual now. And gosh, was this elementary? Did you say elementary? Or
I think this was middle school level. Okay. Middle school level as well. And I mean, middle school is the hardest level for any kid. I remember middle school. It was just, you're scared, you're gawky, you're awkward, you're so confused as it is.
Yes.
It's the worst time, and you're just, what's going on in your brain. You have no idea where you want to go, what you want to do, what you want to be. And then you got to go to school on top of it. And they have social media now, which is super scary.
Yeah. Wow. Well, for any parents that weren't aware of that, I think that's important to know. Again, I agree with you. Yeah, these people deserve, they have the right to have jobs and live their life. But again, I think when we mama bears, really began to roar and wake up was when this stuff started to be really forced upon our children.
When does it infringe upon our rights to live peacefully and my child's right to learn without distractions or this? Because now there's this big distraction. He needs to know what it is, all about it, when he should be learning math or whatever the subject is.
Exactly, yeah. And then we're tapping into free speech. So to compel someone's speech, to speak something specifically that's not true, the children already know the truth of who their teacher is, a male, and now that teacher is compelling the student's speech to affirm what he wants to pretend to be now. Right. There's that whole issue in and of itself too with the free speech, which is part of my own case,
make believe
as a teacher. So, yeah, that was the first story you sent me, and I was just like, no, my heart breaks for kids today.
Absolutely.
I don't think we went through any of this when we were in high school.
There's no way.
I think earlier we were talking about how we both knew of there was maybe a female PE teacher that we're pretty sure was lesbian, but that individual was not telling us that's what they were.
No attention was drawn to it. They weren't treated any less anymore. It was, they were who they were. They didn't draw attention to themselves. They didn't talk about their lifestyle. There weren't pictures up.
Or insist on anything from the students, right? Insist on any sort of affirmation. I don't remember my teachers ever insisting on us students affirming something about them
Absolutely
other than
not.
just like be respectful and call me,
That was it.
Mr., Mrs., whatever it is.
Be respectful and do your
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
Run your mile. Dress out for PE.
Right. Okay, so next story got crazier. And for me, obviously, as a PE teacher, of a story involving PE teachers.
This is a crazy one.
Yeah, this is specifically in Hemet Unified. I do want to clarify that. We've been watching Hemet because they recently tried to bring forth the parental notification policy. Unfortunately, it didn't go anywhere, but we are big fans of Kenneth Prado on the school board over there. We support him. And so, yeah, when you told me this story, I was like, whoa, this is close to home here.
Yeah.
And I think you said it happened even a few years ago.
This was years ago. This was before COVID. This was before the trend of it now got as big. Like you said, I have lots of friends that I grew up with that went on to be school teachers and whatnot. And yeah, there's a few in the Hemet district. And one of them had a girl in their class that had decided to go by a boy's name. So not a big deal. Okay, I'll call you this. That's fine. And then the girl's parents came to the school and wanted her to change in the boys' locker room with the boys. And that was a big ask. And I know that the male PE teachers were not on board with that. Mm-hmm. They weren't okay with that. I mean, they've got 40 to 50 boys in those locker rooms at any given time, between changing and classes, and they're middle school boys. They're throwing stuff at each other, swatting whatever, I don't know. All that is going on, and it's awkward changing in the locker room as it is. But
it's their first time being middle school.
From my understanding, they'd given her a place, away from the rest of the boys, but they had just set their feet down. That the teacher's saying, "Look, I'm not patrolling the locker room in her area. Mm-hmm. Last thing I need is to be, looking at a teenage girl getting undressed and possibly getting blamed for." Checking out a teenage girl in the locker room.
Exactly.
I'll ensure her safety, but I'm not patrolling this area. I'm not going to check on this. And I'm telling you now, I'm not okay with it. This isn't okay. They were super uncomfortable, but it seemed to be working out. I think it was a few weeks later, another teacher had been walking by and had observed this girl who was transitioning to a male. She was kissing another male. Her and a male classmate. No, it was outside of the locker room. Okay. At this time, another teacher observed it, said, "Hey, you guys can't be doing that out here. Stop that." And then it was a few more weeks later that a couple of male classmates found her and a male student in the locker room, pants around their ankles.
No.
And that's what you don't want. That's a very slippery slope. That's a dangerous place. And that's what these schools that are allowing the boys in the girls' locker room, girls in the boys' locker room, aren't thinking about. Again, middle schoolers, they're confused. They don't know what they want. And can you imagine if this girl's parents had arranged for her to change in the locker room, but if they didn't know, the call that would have had to have been made home?
Well, to be honest, I almost wish that would have been the case where the parents didn't approve of all of this and the school just allowed her to enter the boys' locker room and there was, this situation, because unfortunately what it's going to take, and it's all of California, unfortunately, with AB1266, that is going along with the whole students can enter the facility, bathroom, locker room of whatever they identify with. Like all of California is going along with that right now. It's big on my heart to figure out how we can override that and change that, especially, like I said, myself being a PE teacher and having thought through these things. Right. And that story right there is the very reason why I spoke up when they said I had to let trans into the locker room, because whether they were like doing that out of some sort of mutual agreement,
it wasn't
or
forced,
even worse.
Still, if it was a forced situation,
like an abuse situation. Right. And that's what's so frustrating for me is I know sadly, that might be what it's going to have to take, what kind of, situation's going to have to go down where there's going to be a huge, lawsuit, and we can, overturn AB 1266. I mean, I know
hope so.
this is happening in another state in
Loudoun County, Virginia. Yes, that incident is
and
terrifying.
Virginia looks a lot different than California, constitutionally. But yeah, that dad, I think it's been 2 or 3 weeks now. But he just recently filed the lawsuit for like $30 million he's suing the school for, because his daughter was abused by a male student wearing a skirt that I think entered the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're worried enough about your kids possibly getting bullied or beat up at school. Why are schools allowing them? Why are you giving them an open door to do it? You're allowing them in, somebody into the locker room, the bathroom.
Setting the scene.
Like, here's an open door for a private area for you to do, bully a kid, beat up a kid, sexually abuse a kid. It shouldn't be happening. And how dare the schools take that right away from parents and try to keep secrets from them?
Right.
It's not their place.
Yeah. My thought, right away when schools are wanting to withhold certain things, right? Because they seem to communicate and notify parents like crazy when it comes to some other things, events or testing or grades, report cards, whatever it may be.
A hydro flask fell on my child's head at school a few weeks ago, and I got a phone call to come pick him up. I mean, I'm getting notified left and right about things.
Over the most minimal things.
Sure.
But something like this, a very thing that a parent would want to know about. And even if it's just for the sake of, like, a local Marietta mom here went to the latest school board meeting to, really tell the school board, why didn't I even just get the chance to have the conversation ahead of time with my son that he could be entering a facility where he's going to change his clothes and there's going to be a girl in there?
That was one of my questions when I first had heard this situation. I said, have you notified the parents of all the other kids that are going to be in the locker room? Because you should really do that. And they said, no, we can't. And I said, you're telling me that all of these other boys in the locker room are changing with the girl in the locker room and none of the parents have been notified?
Correct. So they say, no, we can't. And they say that under this clause of it's a privacy issue. We can't, if there is a student, again, in it, for me, it feels such like special rights for any student that is like gender identifying or transgender. They seem to have these special rights, in my opinion. But yeah, the school districts are saying we can't speak of it because it's a privacy issue. But there's ways around that. We don't need my kids in there. We don't need to know the name of the student. We don't even need to know how many. Maybe it's just one. Maybe it's 3. We don't need to know any other details other than the fact that it is happening. Mm-hmm. It is happening. So parents, here's a heads up, handle this how you would like to handle this as a parent. Sure. Whether it is have the conversation with your child to prep them to walk into that, or be able to pull your student from even just the class.
Sure. Change
up the schedule. You have the right to do that. Or pull them from school completely. Yeah. But again, if parents don't know what's going on and they're being left in the dark, then how can they prepare their students? How can they make decisions about their students' education, which they have the right to do, again, constitutionally, 14th Amendment.
It rattles my nerves because this is such a small population that they're being so cautious over, and it's affecting 100% of the parents that want to be involved in their child's life. And that really, get it. I'm not saying any cuss words here, but it really just rattles me.
Yeah.
I have one child. He was planned. We put our heart and soul into our child. We're very involved. I want to know everything going on with his life. I mean, he's not going to like that later on, but I want to know these things. I want to know what kind of environments he's in school, especially a locker room type of environment like that.
Yeah.
And I don't like that public schools are trying to just omit parents out of the lives. I don't like that when you need more parents in the lives of the kids by far.
Exactly. And the first thing I think of when anyone not only just a school district, but any person or a child, right, wants to keep something, for example, a child wanting to keep something from their parents, it's usually why. Why does the child want to keep something from their parents? Because they know in their heart that what they're doing, what they know about is wrong, right? I remember being a young teenager. There were decisions I made that I kept, my grandma raised me, that I kept from her just simply because I knew that it was wrong and that she would see it as wrong and she wouldn't approve of it. So I look at these school districts doing these things that are like, oh, no, we can't notify parents. And I'm like, because you know it's wrong.
Right. Or
could you imagine if
the child
all the parents in Hemet Unified were aware that this situation has gone down in a locker room?
I'm dying to know if any of them knew.
I would love to see all parents aware, because that is when they would finally get in the game, have their voices be heard, show up to the school board meetings, and, hold these people accountable.
What parents are on board with having schools keep secrets from them? That's what I'm wondering. When have the parents been consulted about any of these things? Parents,
I had never heard of it. I had never heard of it until recently at a school board meeting. There was literally one parent that went up and was like, if my child, wants to identify as this or that and is comfortable telling a teacher at school before telling me, then so be it. I'll wait for my turn, wait for my child to, and I
don't think that there's any even proven cases that has gone awry. Correct. That the kids keeping things away from their parents 100% are the ones that actually end up suicidal and hurting themselves. And they need their parents.
Yeah, no, the data actually shows exactly the opposite of what they claim. They scream, there's going to be blood on your hands if you force, teachers to tell the truth, which really, no. The suicide rates go down, the depression goes down, and the rates of going through with this whole transitioning goes down with parental involvement. And that's exactly why we want to involve parents. And right now, what we're in right now is just first and foremost making them aware. So I'm always excited to meet a parent like you who's very aware and is willing to just come in and share, or just message me and share whatever you know. So thank you for doing that.
Happy to be here. Happy to tell them, get it out, because parents need to be involved. You can't take parents out of their kids' life.
Yeah, we really appreciate you helping us with that, and just alerting me of what you knew of. And I'm sure through this podcast, it's going to alert more parents, and that's what we've got to focus on right now, getting the info out there, because once the info is there and people are aware, then we can start to take action and resolve some really, bad bills and bad policies that are affecting our children's education right now. So many. Thank you so much, Deanna, for coming in. Do you have any last words to, parents or teachers?
Just go to the school board meetings, watch these bills. I still have lots of friends that aren't watching these bills that could be heavily impacted by these bills. The AB1266, my girlfriends that have teenagers, you need to have a talk with your teenagers. They're very impressionable. They group together and decide they want to go someplace else together for a time. It's not okay. You cannot pull the parents away from the kids. Parents now really want to be involved with their children more than ever.
Yeah, so and they have to be now more than ever. Absolutely. Because the evil is just everywhere you turn. The evil is after our kids, whether it's through social media or education 100%. Or just on your very own street. So, all right, our watch. Well, we're so grateful for Deanna just alerting us, sharing these stories with us, and coming in today. If you or your friend or your family member or neighbor know of anything like this happening in the community, in a school district, let us know. Like I told Deanna, right now, our big focus is bringing the information and helping to take the scales off so many parents' eyes, because so many still have this blinded trust in the education system. And sadly, there are some awful things happening. And first and foremost, we've got to be aware. So thanks for tuning in. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Again, this is Jessica Tapia, and we will see you next time.